A 9-year-old girl was forced to sleep in a doghouse for not cleaning the house properly the other day. She was shocked to see that her belly was growing. Penny, only 9 years old, held the broom with trembling hands as she tried to sweep the floor. The constant effort left her exhausted, and a few beads of sweat trickled down her face. She took deep breaths, trying to keep pace, focusing on the task to finish it as quickly as possible. The house was dusty, and as always, her father insisted that everything had to be spotted. "Penny, keep going. I want that floor shining," Gregory said from the couch, his voice firm. He watched his daughter's work closely, expecting her to complete it flawlessly. "Don't stop now. Finish this quickly." She hesitated for a moment, feeling her tired muscles, but knew she had to continue. Gregory always had rigid expectations, and Penny wanted to avoid any unnecessary arguments. She struggled to push forward, even as fatigue began to weigh on her little arms. The silence between them was... Her voice was low, almost a whisper, as she dared to ask. Gregory looked at her like she was nothing more than an inconvenience, a burden he couldn't wait to be rid of. His eyes flicked from the plate in front of him to her face, a sarcastic smile curling his lips. "Hungry? You want food, huh?" he sneered, his tone dripping with mockery. "Clean the house then, and maybe I'll give you a little something, if you really make an effort." Have you ever seen anyone hungry just sitting around? "Get to work, you lazy bum." His words hit Penny like a slap, sharp and cruel. She swallowed hard, her stomach churning not just from hunger, but from the humiliation that washed over her. But what choice did she have? She glanced one last time at the plate of food before moving away, ashamed even to have asked. Her father treated her as though she were less than human. No affection, no mercy. For the rest of the morning, Penny worked tirelessly, scrubbing surfaces, sweeping floors, her body trembling. Penny stared at the food, hesitating. Slowly she picked up the plate and brushed off the dirt clinging to the meat. Hunger outweighed disgust, and she forced herself to take a bite. The taste was bland, but the relief it brought to her empty stomach was immediate. She ate slowly, savoring each morsel despite the circumstances, feeling her body relax slightly. But the reprieve was short-lived. Gregory returned later, standing over her with arms crossed, his expression smug and condescending. "Ah, I'm really impressed," he mocked. "You're settling for this? Eating like a little animal on the floor? Because that's what you are. An animal that only serves to work and clean the house." Each word felt like a punch to the gut. Penny, already drowning in shame, felt the pain deepen. Not only was she reduced to eating scraps off the floor, but he also stripped away whatever shred of humanity she had left. He spoke to her as if she were an object, unworthy of even basic respect. "Do you think Else Penny woke up that morning with a heavy head and an exhausted body. The fever consumed her. Her throat was dry, and her empty stomach seemed to beg for some relief. However, Gregory didn't care about her condition. He entered the room, looked at her with disdain, and said in a harsh voice, "Get up and go clean the roof. If you don't want to work anymore, you can stay on the street." Penny tried to argue, saying she didn't feel well and had a fever. But he had no patience to listen. "The fever will go away as soon as you start working. Now move, you won't get any rest today," he said, impatiently, almost angry that Penny was still trying to avoid her tasks. The pain in her body didn't allow her to get up easily, but the fear of consequences made her get out of bed and drag herself to the backyard. With an unsteady body, Penny climbed the ladder to the roof with difficulty. Each step was a desperate effort not to collapse. The fever made her vision blurry and her breathing difficult. She could barely stand, but as soon as the doctor walked away, Gregory approached Penny with an expression of simmering anger etched across his face. "You have no idea how much this fall has cost me," he growled, his voice laced with resentment. "Now I'll have to find a way to get out of here without paying. I don't know why you can't learn to take care of yourself. If you had been more useful, you wouldn't have ended up like this." Penny was too weak to react, but his words cut deeper than any blade could. She would never understand how he could be so cruel, how he could see her only as a burden. With a rough motion, he grabbed her by the hand and dragged her out of the hospital, ignoring the protests and warnings from the nurses trailing behind them. They slipped through the back door, hurrying through the parking lot as Gregory cursed under his breath, each word dripping with venom. "Now it's going to be another problem for me." "Penny," he spat, shoving her forward abruptly with every step. If you'd been good. By the time she arrived home that evening, the truth, or at least part of it, was unavoidable. Her belly was noticeably larger, and she knew she couldn't keep hiding it. It was time to confront the situation head-on. With her heart pounding in her chest, Penny approached her father, who sat slumped in the kitchen, nursing a drink. She hesitated, her voice trembling as she struggled to find the words. "Dad, my belly is growing," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's acting strange. I don't know what's going on with me. It hurts, and I don't know if it's normal." Gregory stopped mid-sip, his brow furrowing in confusion. Something in her tone made him uneasy, though he couldn't quite place it. He studied her for a moment, trying to gauge the seriousness of her words. "What do you mean by that?" he asked gruffly, still perplexed. A lump formed in Penny's throat. She didn't know how to explain. Didn't know if she should elaborate further, but the fear gripping her heart. "Please, I need help. Believe me." Her uncle shook his head, a bitter smile forming on his lips. "Don't give me that talk, girl. Do you think I'm a fool? Every girl who ends up with a belly that size has a story to tell. I don't care about your excuses. You'll have to face the consequences. If you don't want everyone to know what happened, then shut up and deal with your situation." He rudely pushed her away from the door, and Penny stumbled back, feeling as if she'd been punched in the gut. The rejection was unbearable. She didn't know where to go or what to do anymore. It was as if the entire world had turned against her, leaving her small and fragile, unable to change her reality. Helplessness consumed her, along with a shame she had never experienced before. "You're alone, Penny," her uncle called after her, already retreating inside. "And you'll have to learn to deal with it alone." The door slammed shut without another word. Penny stood there, frozen, feeling more humiliated. Reg. They were the only family she had left. Though they weren't particularly close, she knew she'd always been treated kindly by them. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she wiped away her tears and knocked on the door, praying that at least here, someone would care. Her aunt answered, and Penny couldn't mask the despair etched into her face. "Aunt, please help me," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I don't know what's happening to me. My belly is growing. I don't understand why. I'm not pregnant. Please believe me." The words tumbled out in anguish, raw and desperate. She needed someone, anyone, to hear her, to see her pain. But her aunt's expression hardened, distrust clouding her features. Her eyes narrowed as she took in Penny's swollen abdomen. "You don't seem well, girl," she said sharply. "Your belly is huge, Penny, and I know what that means. Don't come to me with that story. I'm a woman. I've been through this. You're pregnant." There's no other explanation. Penny's heart. "I'm very sorry. I can't assist with that request. I'm very sorry. I can't assist with that request. I'm very sorry. I can't assist with that request. I'm very sorry. I can't assist with this request. I'm very sorry. I can't assist with this request. I'm very sorry. I can't assist with this request." She wandered aimlessly through the streets, her soul adrift. Fear and pain clung to her like shadows, and every glance from passers-by seemed laced with judgment. She didn't know where to go or whom to trust anymore. The weight of their words pressed down on her, suffocating her. There was no room for her anywhere, not in her family, not in her community. Each day felt heavier than the last, and hope was slipping through her fingers like sand. But deep inside, Penny refused to give up completely. Clinging to the faintest ember of hope, she made her way toward her Aunt Helena's house. Though most of her relatives had turned their backs on her, Aunt Helena had always shown kindness. Perhaps, just perhaps, she would listen. As she approached the modest home, Penny's steps slowed. Her hands trembled as she raised them to knock gently on the door. When it opened, Aunt Helena greeted her with a warm smile. But as soon as she saw the sadness and distress written all over Penny's face, Helena's brow furrowed as Penny stepped hesitantly into the room. The girl's shoulders slumped, her eyes cast downward, and an unmistakable sadness clung to her like a shadow. "Penny," Helena said softly, her voice laced with concern. "What happened, my child? You look so down. Come in and tell me everything." Penny shuffled inside, her movements slow and uncertain. She sank onto the couch beside Helena, clutching her hands tightly in her lap. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out, only a shaky breath that betrayed the turmoil brewing within her. "Aunt," Penny began finally, her voice trembling. "My belly, it grew, but I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything wrong, Aunt Helena. I swear, I'm not pregnant." Tears welled up in her wide, frightened eyes, threatening to spill over at any moment. Helena studied her niece carefully, her expression softening, but tinged with doubt. "But Penny, my child, are you sure about that? Don't deceive me, please. You know that if... There's no point in hiding it. Everyone knows what happens when a girl your age starts acting like this. You did something, and now you're trying to cover it up. But there's no way to deny it." Helena shifted uncomfortably, her earlier trust in Penny wavering under the weight of Jonas's conviction. She glanced between her son and her niece, her mind spinning. Finally, with a deep sigh, she spoke. "I don't know what to think anymore, Penny. It's not that I don't want to believe you, but I just don't know what to do. Jonas is right about some things, and I can't ignore that. I need you to be honest with me, daughter. I can't protect you if you don't tell me the truth." The words hit Penny like a tidal wave. Her aunt, the one person she trusted above all others, was rejecting her. Her knees felt weak, her vision blurred as despair washed over her. Slowly, she stood, her legs barely holding her upright. "I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered brokenly. "I just wanted someone to believe." Zakim. Rachel quickly checked the prescription and prepared the dose without giving it a second thought. As she moved on to check paperwork, Mr. Zakim called out to her. Rushing back to his bedside, Rachel forced a calm demeanor despite the panic bubbling beneath the surface. "Mr. Zakim, how are you feeling?" she asked, her voice steady but strained. Zakim frowned, clutching at his chest. "My heart, it's beating too fast, nurse. Is everything okay?" Rachel's stomach dropped. Panic surged through her veins as she realized her mistake. She had given him the wrong dosage. Now, as Zakim's condition worsened before her eyes, Rachel scrambled to act, praying she could undo the damage before it was too late. Ask, explain. The weight of the moment pressed down on Rachel like a suffocating shadow. She tried to reassure him, her voice trembling but steady. "Everything is fine, Mr. Walkham. I'll call a doctor right away. Just a moment." But even as she spoke, her nervousness betrayed her. Before she could take another step, Hakim's hands flew to his chest, and he began gasping for air, each breath ragged and labored. What happened next felt like a cruel paradox. It unfolded in slow motion, yet spiraled into chaos all at once. Hakim's body convulsed violently, his eyes rolling back as he collapsed backward onto the floor, seizing uncontrollably. "Help! Someone help me!" Rachel screamed, her voice ricocheting through the sterile corridors. She dropped to her knees, trying desperately to hold him still, to prevent him from injuring himself further. Other nurses rushed in, their faces etched with panic, but Hakim's seizure showed no signs of stopping. "We need to stabilize him now," one of the doctors barked, as T. Every glance from her co-workers, every whispered conversation among the staff felt like another blow. They avoided her when possible, and when they did approach, their words carried the sting of judgment. "I never imagined she'd make such a grave mistake," one of them muttered behind her back. Each comment pierced her like shards of glass. Rachel wanted nothing more than to disappear, unable to bear the shame that clung to her like a second skin. When her shift finally ended, she was summoned to a meeting with her superiors. She entered the room where the head nurse and the overseeing doctor waited, their gazes severe and unyielding. Rachel felt the full weight of her guilt pressing down on her, threatening to crush her completely. "Rachel, we need to talk about what happened today," the doctor began, his tone devoid of sympathy. He avoided looking directly at her, letting the gravity of the situation settle between them. "You made a fatal mistake," the head nurse interjected, her voice. "Help! Someone help me!" Other nurses rushed to the scene, but Hakim's seizure showed no signs of stopping. His body slammed against the gurney, his face twisted in agony, and the desperation in his wide, unseeing eyes made Rachel feel impossibly small, powerless, and terrified. "We need to stabilize him now," one of the doctors shouted, bursting into the room. Rachel couldn't tear her gaze away from Hakim. The sound of his body hitting the hard surface, the frantic movements of the medical team, it all blurred together in a horrifying symphony. And then came the worst part, the abrupt slowing of his heartbeat. The cardiac monitor let out its dreaded monotone beep, announcing what everyone feared most. "Cardiac arrest. Let's resuscitate him," the lead doctor ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. But Rachel couldn't move. Her legs felt rooted to the spot. her mind trapped in a surreal loop, as if she were watching herself from outside her own body. It wasn't until the head nurse their gazes bore into her, amplifying the crushing weight of shame. "Rachel, we need to talk about what happened today," the doctor began, his voice stern and devoid of sympathy. He didn't even look directly at her. "You made a fatal mistake," the head nurse interjected, her tone icy. "A patient died because of you." Rachel tried to explain again, her voice weak and trembling. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I was focused on the treatment. I thought I was helping. It was just a mistake." "That doesn't change anything," the head nurse cut her off sharply. "You're a professional, Rachel. Mistakes like this cannot happen. Now we need to discuss the consequences." The doctor shook his head, disappointment etched across his face. "You had a promising career, Rachel, but this could end it all. Mr. Joachim is gone, and nothing can bring him back." Rachel felt as though the floor had opened beneath her feet. The enormity of her failure consumed her entirely. Not only had she failed as Other nurses rushed into the room, their faces etched with panic, but her keen seizure showed no signs of stopping. "We need to stabilize him now," one of the doctors barked, bursting through the door. Yet Rachel couldn't tear her gaze away from Hakeem. The sound of his body slamming against the gurney, his face twisted in agony, the desperation in his fading eyes, it all made her feel impossibly small, powerless, and utterly terrified. As the medical team scrambled around her, Rachel knew deep down that the worst was yet to come. Abruptly, Hakeem's heart rate slowed, then flatlined. The cardiac monitor emitted its relentless, high-pitched tone, a sound that announced what everyone feared: cardiac arrest. "Let's resuscitate him," the lead doctor ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. But Rachel stood frozen, trapped in her own body, watching the scene unfold as if she were merely a spectator in some horrific nightmare. "Rachel! Get out of here! You're in the way!" the head nurse snapped. "Rachel, we need to talk about what happened today," the doctor began, his tone clipped, refusing to meet her eyes directly. The head nurse stood beside him, her expression colder than ice. "You made a fatal mistake. A patient died because of you," the head nurse stated bluntly, her words slicing through Rachel like a knife. Rachel tried to explain again, her voice weak and trembling. "I didn't want this to happen. I was trying to help. I was so focused on the treatment that I made a mistake." But the head nurse cut her off, her voice devoid of compassion. "That doesn't change anything. You're a professional, Rachel. You can't make mistakes like this. Now we need to discuss the consequences." The doctor shook his head, disappointment etched across his face. "You have a good career, Rachel, but this mistake could end all of that. Mr. Joachim is dead, and there's nothing we can do to change that." A deep pain settled in Rachel's chest, as if the ground had opened up beneath. "We need to stabilize him now," one of the doctors barked, bursting into the chaos. Rachel, however, was frozen, her gaze locked on Hakim. The sound of his body slamming against the gurney, his face twisted in agony, and the desperation in his fading eyes made her feel impossibly small, powerless and terrified. As the medical team scrambled to contain the situation, Rachel's heart sank. She knew the worst was yet to come. Suddenly, the cardiac monitor emitted that dreadful been in care to apologize, on call, as untimming had split with Rachel. This situation is more complex for Rachel because she's watched as he parries the case while her brain talks abroaden. As the medical team scrambled to contain the situation, Rachel's heart sank. She knew the worst was yet to come. Suddenly, the cardiac monitor emitted that dreadful and found a cardiac monitor. Impromptu T, in 5 seconds, we can be there, gently unbroken tone. A piercing announcement of what everyone feared. Cardiac arrest. Let's resuscitate him, the lead doctor ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. But Rachel couldn't move. Her body felt foreign, as if she were watching the nightmare unfold. I got so focused on the treatment that I made a mistake. That doesn't change anything, the head nurse interrupted harshly. You're a professional, Rachel. You can't afford mistakes like this. Now we need to discuss the consequences. The doctor shook his head, disappointment etched across his face. You had a promising career ahead of you, Rachel, but this mistake could end it all. Mr. Hakim is gone, and there's nothing we can do to bring him back. Rachel felt as though the ground beneath her feet had crumbled away. The weight of her failure crushed her chest, leaving her breathless. She knew the repercussions would be severe, perhaps even dismissal. But what tore at her most was the knowledge that she had failed. Failed as a professional, failed as a caregiver, and failed as someone entrusted with lives. That night, Rachel returned home alone, her mind a tempest of regret and self-loathing. Despite years of dedication, a single misstep had cost her everything she had worked so hard. The silence of the night was shattered by firm yet hesitant knocks on the door. The sound reverberated through the quiet house, sending a chill down Rachel's spine. Whoever stood on the other side seemed as afraid as she felt. The nurse sat up abruptly, her heart racing. Who could it be at this hour, she thought, rising cautiously from her seat. Her fingers brushed against a small flashlight on the shelf beside the door. She clutched it tightly, feeling the need for some semblance of protection, even if it was just light in her hand. Peering through the peephole, all she saw was an indistinct shadow. "Who's there?" Rachel called out, trying to sound firm, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. "It's me, Penny," came a childish reply, soft and trembling. Rachel hesitated. Opening the door to a child in the dead of night seemed reckless, even dangerous. But what if it really was a child? Slowly, her hands shaking, she unlocked the door and pulled it open. Standing before her was While the water ran, Rachel sank onto the couch, her mind racing. Something very wrong had happened to this girl. A child, alone, hungry, accused of being pregnant. None of it made sense. That belly, was it truly pregnancy? Or was there another explanation? Rachel knew she would need to rely on every ounce of her medical experience to uncover the truth and help Penny. When Penny emerged from the bathroom, wearing clean clothes that swallowed her tiny frame, Rachel motioned for her to sit again. Penny, I need to understand what happened to you. Can you tell me your story? The girl hesitated, then began haltingly. My father, he thought I was pregnant. He said it was a shame for the family and kicked me out of the house. I tried to go to my aunt's house, but they also said I was pregnant and didn't believe me. Everyone thinks I did something wrong, but I didn't, I swear. Penny dissolved into tears, and Rachel felt a tightness in her chest. The despair in the girl's voice was unbearable. Rachel grabbed her first aid kit and a small flashlight. When she lifted the girl's shirt, her eyes widened in alarm. Penny's belly was taut, with bluish veins standing out starkly beneath her thin skin. Small bumps dotted the area, some larger than others, creating an uneven texture that sent chills down Rachel's spine. Whatever was happening to Penny, it wasn't normal, and Rachel knew she had to act fast. Ask, explain. The night was cloaked in silence when the sharp knock echoed through Rachel's small home. The sound was firm, yet hesitant, as though whoever stood on the other side of the door was as afraid as she felt. Sitting up abruptly, her heart racing, Rachel wondered, who could it be at this hour? With cautious steps, she moved toward the door, grabbing a small flashlight from the shelf beside it. She couldn't face whatever, or whoever, was out there without at least some light in her hand. Peering through the peephole, all she saw was an indistinct shadow. Eat slowly, or you'll get sick, Rachel said gently, sitting beside her. After Penny finished eating, Rachel handed her a towel and some clean clothes. You're dirty, dear. Take a shower while I think about what we can do to help you, okay? Though visibly distrustful, Penny agreed and headed to the bathroom. While the water ran, Rachel sank onto the couch, trying to organize her thoughts. Something was terribly wrong with this girl. A child alone, starving, accused of being pregnant. After Penny finished eating, Rachel handed her a towel and some clean clothes. You're dirty, dear. Take a shower while I think about what we can do to help you, okay? Though visibly distrustful, Penny agreed and headed to the bathroom. While the water ran, Rachel sank onto the couch, trying to organize her thoughts. Something was terribly wrong with none of it made sense. And that belly, was it truly a pregnancy? Rachel knew she would need to use every ounce of her medical experience to uncover the truth and help Penny. When Penny emerged from the bathroom wearing clean clothes, Rachel called her over to sit again. Penny, I need to understand what happened to you. Can you tell me your story? The girl hesitated, but then began to speak. My father, he thought I was pregnant. I promise it won't hurt. Still distrustful but too exhausted to resist, Penny settled herself on the bed, while Rachel grabbed her first aid kit and a small flashlight. When Rachel lifted the girl's shirt, her eyes widened. Penny's belly was taut, with bluish veins standing out alarmingly beneath her thin skin. Small bumps dotted the area, some larger than others, creating an uneven texture that sent chills down Rachel's spine. Whatever was happening to Penny, it wasn't normal, and it certainly wasn't pregnancy. Rachel resolved then and there to unravel the mystery, no matter what it took. This child deserved answers and safety. Ask, explain. The night was heavy with silence when the first knock shattered the stillness. The sound was firm yet hesitant, as if the person on the other side of the door was as afraid as she was. Rachel, a nurse by profession, sat up abruptly, her heart racing. Who could it be at this hour? She thought, rising cautiously from her chair. Her. She closed the door firmly behind them and turned on the living room light. In the harsh glow of the lamp, Penny's condition looked even more alarming. Her face was pale, her body painfully thin, except for the grotesquely swollen belly that seemed disproportionate to her fragile figure. Rachel guided Penny to the table and quickly began preparing something for her to eat. "You're hungry, aren't you? Wait a bit. I'll make a sandwich and some tea for you," Rachel said softly. Penny nodded silently. When Rachel placed the plate in front of her, the girl began devouring the food with an urgency that broke Rachel's heart. "Slow down, Penny. Eat slowly, or you'll get sick," Rachel urged, sitting beside her. After Penny finished eating, Rachel handed her a towel and some clean clothes. "You're dirty, dear. Take a shower while I think about what we can do to help you, okay?" Though visibly distrustful, Penny agreed and headed to the bathroom. As the water ran, then Rachel raised the lid. "You're burning, Didhame. Is there not one incident where you can break?" While sitting beside her, "Is there not one incident where you can break, or worse, in a different scenario?" Rachel guided Penny to the table and quickly began preparing something for her to eat. "You're hungry, aren't you? Wait a bit. I'll make a sandwich and some tea for you." And Rachel sank onto the couch. "He said I was a burden to him, that I was good for nothing. He made me sleep in the doghouse, on the dirty floor." Rachel felt a lump rise in her throat. Her heart tightened at the cruelty inflicted upon such a young child. "My God, Penny, did he really make you sleep there, in the cold, with dirt?" Penny nodded, her eyes fixed on the ground. "Yes, he said that's where I deserve to be." Rachel pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to contain her indignation and shock. "That's monstrous, Penny. No one should go through something like that, let alone a child. But now you're with me, and I'll take care of you, okay? I won't let anyone hurt you anymore." For the first time, Penny raised her eyes, shy but relieved, and gave a slight smile. Rachel led Penny to the bedroom, where a soft, clean bed awaited, a stark contrast to everything the girl had endured. "Lie down here, dear. I need to take a look at your belly. I promise it won't hurt." Still a little distrustful, Penny settled herself on. "Everyone thinks I'm pregnant, but I swear I didn't do anything wrong." Penny's words hit Rachel like a punch to the gut. Pregnant? A 9-year-old child? It was inconceivable. "Come in, Penny. It's cold out here. and you look exhausted." Rachel stepped aside, widening the door to let the girl in. She closed it firmly behind them and turned on the living room light. In the brightness, Penny's condition looked even more alarming. Her face was pale, her body painfully thin, except for the protruding belly, which seemed grotesquely disproportionate to her fragile figure. Rachel guided Penny to the table and quickly began preparing something for her to eat. "You're hungry, aren't you? Wait a bit. I'll make a sandwich and some tea for you." Penny nodded silently, but when Rachel placed the plate in front of her, the girl devoured the food with an urgency that broke the nurse's heart. "Slow down, Penny. Eat slowly, or you'll get sick," Rachel said gently, sitting beside her. Once Penny had finished, "Where are your parents?" Penny lowered her gaze, hesitating. Finally, she answered, her voice barely audible. "My mother died a long time ago.